Hi everybody, welcome back. This is another video we're making just for training purposes for resident-owned community leaders here in New York State. I did want to flag that this is a little bit of a different video. Going to go over a little bit, some more of the abstract duties of a board member in a resident-owned community, or really in any type of cooperatively owned business. So today we're going to dig a little bit into fiduciary duty. Over here it says fiduciary duty. So what is fiduciary duty? So fiduciary duty is an obligation to act in the best interest of another party. So the co-op, your co-op's board members have a fiduciary duty to your membership, right? A trustee has fiduciary duty to the trust's beneficiaries, and an attorney has a fiduciary duty to a client, right? So it's basically just saying, when I put my board member hat on, I am thinking about the best interest, what's in the best interest of the cooperative, my community, not what's in the best interest of myself or my neighbor or my friend who also lives in the community. I'm thinking about what's best overall for the co-op. A big part of your role as a board member and a part of your fiduciary duty is oversight of professional and financial property and financial management, right? And this means you have experts that you hire to do a good job for you, and you are holding them accountable, but also empowering them to do that good job, right? Accountable empowerment is a phrase I use a lot to describe that relationship. But what is fiduciary duty? So it's really broken down into these two things, duty of care and duty of loyalty. So we're going to dig a little bit into that, both of those today. So what is duty of care? So I think I brought up this topic in part because I think folks either feel like, oh, I could never run for the board. I don't have the knowledge, the know-how. I've never run a multi-million-dollar corporation. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an engineer. What could I possibly bring to the board, right? So I think the important thing to look at here is really, when you run for the board, you're promising to uphold these two things. You're not promising to be, some type of engineering whiz, or manufactured housing genius. You're promising to carry out board responsibilities competently, right? As a reasonable human would, not as a reasonable genius would. So show up. Are you coming to the meetings? That's part of competence, right? Are you prepared when you come to the meetings? Have you done the reading ahead of time? Have you reviewed the minutes from the last meeting? Have you reviewed the board packet, any financials being presented, right? Are you prepared to ask questions that you might need the answers to? Are you prepared to make decisions on topics you know are on the agenda? These are all part of carrying out board responsibilities competently. Another part is protecting the board's process. So you have a duty to uphold the corporate documents, right? The bylaws, the rules. You have a duty to speak your mind, right, when you disagree with something or when you have an opinion on something, and you have a duty to uphold the decision of the board when that decision is made, even if it's not the decision that you would have made personally, right? Another part of protecting the board's process is, for a lot of folks, the way a cooperative runs can be kind of cumbersome. It's slow. You have to wait for board meetings to make most decisions. You have to consult everyone. Everyone gets their say, right? And I would never claim that it's the most efficient or fast way of running a community, right? An investor owner can get things done whenever they want, right? But it's the way that you all signed on to run this community. No board member is an island, and everyone has their say, and everyone has equal vote, right? Or sometimes folks will think that the president has some innate power over other board members. The president really chairs the meetings, right? And presides over the meetings, makes sure things flow well. They're the leader of the board, but they don't have any more power than any other board member does, and they can't make any one decision by themselves the same as any board member. So I'll get off my soapbox about that, but protect the board's process. It's everyone's responsibility, every board member's responsibility. Maintain confidentiality. Now, some folks see this as in sort of conflict with a transparency that is, a hallmark of cooperative ownership. But really, there's very few things that need to be confidential, but when they do, right? So things like rules violations, complaints, accounts receivable, who's behind on their lot rent. These are confidential topics, and they should be treated as such, right? You can't be going around telling everyone that, lot 37 owes us $1,000, and so they're out there with their torches and their pitchforks, right? Because at worst, that could escalate to a point at which the co-op is being sued for, destroying someone's reputation in the community or something like that. So maintain that confidentiality. In the rare occasion when it is needed, I promise there's a good reason. And if you have a question about the good reason, ask that question. That's totally fine to ask. So that's duty of care. Really quick, wanted to call out what duty of care is not, right? I think sometimes people think it's being the expert in the room. It's knowing everything to make the most informed decision possible. It's not being the expert in the room, right? That's why you pay experts, property managers, engineers, attorneys. It's listening, asking questions to understand, and making a decision based on your best, most competent, reasonable person decision that you can make. It's also not doing everything yourself. So your lender requires that you have professional property management. That's in your loan agreement. That is to ensure you don't have to do everything yourself, that you have professionals assisting you in enacting the business of the board, all right? And there's good reason for that, so don't feel like duty of care is, I personally, the board treasurer, am responsible for, getting everything done. That's not how it is. And then the other element is this duty of loyalty. So what is duty of loyalty? It's putting the rock first. When you put your board member hat on, you have to make decisions that you think are in the best interest of the community, not in the best interest of any one faction. Sometimes folks are elected to the board because a particular issue is important to them, or they really care about a certain sort of faction of the membership they think is not being represented. That's great. Whatever drives you to board service is great. But once you're on the board, you don't represent any one faction of the board, and you don't represent any one issue, right? You represent the community, the corporation owned by the members. That is your resident-owned community, and as such, you put the entire community first. Whenever you're considering all the decisions you have to make, you're putting the community first, and you're also disclosing any and all conflicts. So most common example I see of this is, say I have a cousin who wants to do the snow plowing, right? They have a snow plow company. They want to bid on the snow plowing contract that we put out there. Sure. So I just have to say to the board, hey, fellow board members, my cousin, he has a snow plowing company. He wants to bid on this plowing contract. Just wanted to put that out there that he's planning on doing that. The board can do anything from say, great, thanks, Molly. So glad you told us. Doesn't affect what we're going to do, but good to know. All the way to saying like, you know what, Molly, we're really not comfortable involving you in this decision based on the conflict you have disclosed. So we're going to ask you to leave whenever there's discussion or a decision made on this topic. But disclosing it, that is the important part. I will say about fiduciary duty in general, you have a code of conduct and a board policy, and if you don't, please talk to me because you should. These things really codify that fiduciary responsibility, that duty of care, and that duty of loyalty, right? It puts it in writing so everyone is clear. What's my role as a board member? What do I have to do to be a good board member, a competent board member, and to uphold my duty to the membership? And how do I know when I'm falling short? And how do my fellow board members lift me up when that is happening? So that is the overview of fiduciary duty. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate your time. Happy to dig into this more with you as always, if needed, with the entire board, especially if you need to edit or revise or put in place a board policy or a board code of ethics or code of conduct. These are really important documents to have, very much worth your while. So happy to have that discussion with you. Thanks so much for your time, and rock on.